Welcome back, Prism Pals. This is Katie with another episode of Prism People. If you like the content that we're supplying, please hit the buttons below to like and subscribe and never miss another one of our weekly videos. Tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the processes that I use when creating content to bring to you. As some of you know, one of my resolutions this year was to create a sketchbook for myself. I don't particularly love sketching. It's not really one of my strong suits. So when I have a sketchbook page that is 9 by 12, that is so much space for me to fill out. And it becomes really daunting, just like the blank canvas. Only I'm really starting from scratch. So instead, what I do is a process called thumbnailing. And what all that is I section out my page, usually just into 4, and I only fill in those small thumbnailed sections. It's a lot less space to fill out, so the pressure is much, much less. And also, when it's smaller, you don't mind getting a little bit messy or experimenting with multiple ideas. Another reason that I'm designing my own sketchbook is so that I can put into those thumbnails specially marked aspect ratios. Aspect ratio is really important when you're pre-planning any piece of work because you need to know what you're going to include in your final piece. If you are sketching on an aspect ratio that's a 12 by 12, you're not going to get enough height included in your thumbnail if you end up painting on, say, a 16 by 20. In fact, you're going to lose width and height, and so nothing's going to match up, and you're going to lose major sections of the outline of your painting. So those are two of the big reasons why I wanted to design a sketchbook for myself. One of the things I included in the sketchbook to spark inspiration and try and get the creative juices flowing were some fun little games. One of them is a set of word searches that I designed that really I just sat down and wrote up lists of all of these words that I like. Either they're fun to say or they inspire something in me, like effervescent or alias, maw, devour. So what I'm going to do tonight is go through one of those word searches. I did them based on letter, but I didn't write down what letter was which puzzle. So I actually went into this not knowing at all what letters I was looking for. So I did find a lot of words that started with different letters because we had a lot of really fun. And so yeah, we're just going to go over real quick. So the words that I chose from the list that I found was estuary, tar, dough, entropy, and evanescent. So I've already gone through and sketched out a little thumbnail of what I wanted to paint for you guys tonight. And so let's go ahead and get started. So tonight, keep in mind that we're not using the same paints that I usually use when I teach my classes. When we do that, we use the Creative Expressions acrylic colors. But tonight I'm actually going to be using mostly Artist Loft brands, but also some Liquitex. Yeah, Artist Loft and Liquitex. I already put it onto a canvas for us, but so that you can see a little bit better, I'm going to outline with a Sharpie. Now, one of the reasons I like to do this is because the Sharpie will show through my paint just a little bit. It's not going to show through every layer and you'll not know that it was there by the finished piece, but it helps me remember what things are supposed to stay where in the early stages as I'm getting everything laid out. I honestly don't always pre-plan anyway. I am a big fan of just sitting down at a canvas and slapping paint on, because to me the scariest part of anything when it comes to art is starting. So it's scary when I start the sketch, but it's just as scary when I start the actual painting. So sometimes I skip the sketch altogether and I just go in and, very much like I'm sculpting, I start laying down layers of paint that I just shape with my brush. And it really is very much like carving out in clay, only I'm working in 2D instead of 3D. Since we opted to do some pre-planning, we know our basic layout, and that takes a lot of the pressure off in terms of decision making at this point. It's nice because it lets me relax a little bit while I warm up by laying down the base coats. It also gives me the emotional space to curate an environment that's going to let me focus. I have ADHD and often have trouble staying on task even when I'm doing things I enjoy. So to help me stay on track, I use a few different techniques. The first and most effective for me is body doubling. Body doubling is a term used by the neurodiverse community for another person being used as an emotional and psychological anchor. Many people who are neurodiverse, many people in general, find that they benefit from having another person's presence while they work. The double doesn't have to be doing anything in particular, and we don't even really need to interact at all. It's just the warmth of companionship. And I think that for me, part of it is an inbuilt desire to perform well in gratitude of the gift of time I'm being given with friends and colleagues and loved ones. And for me, in-person hangouts are the way to go, which is honestly part of why I started Prism Studios. All of it sprung from this vision of our Paint at Your Pace events where people could experiment with art at their own pace, with their own interests in a supportive and community setting. But if you don't have access to an in-person body double, I find that video and voice chat through platforms like Facebook or Discord are just as effective. For those of you watching this video, keep an eye out on our channel for information on upcoming live streams where we can serve as the anchor to our community. The second most effective way for me to stay on task is the playlist. We all have one, and most of us have many. Because I personally have no issues with radically changing my paintings on a whim, I'm particularly susceptible to making too many rapid changes if I don't maintain consistent emotional state. Contemporary music like Grandson, Billie Eilish, A Perfect Circle, and Yuzen are all regulars for me, but usually I listen to a list of songs with the same tone on repeat, or honestly, sometimes just the same song on repeat, so that I maintain that consistency. My favorite music to listen to while I paint, though, is like ambient experimental folk music from Denmark and Norway, and so Heilung and Wardruna and Danheim. And that's because the music is both in languages that I don't speak and also includes a lot of ambient sounds and chanting, which, like sailors in their sea shanties, lets me preoccupy my brain just enough that I can relax into the physical enjoyment of painting. My third tactic is just throwing on the TV to a show that I don't really need to see the screen to know what's happening. It's not a perfect fix, and yes, even though I've watched Brian Fuller's Hannibal 6,000 times, I do still get distracted by it sometimes. But often it just tricks my brain into thinking that I'm not alone. I'll do the same with movies in other languages because it does the same trick. And because I don't understand what's being said, I don't get sucked into the screen, which allows me to feel companionship without getting distracted. Okay, pals, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening because I'm pretty happy with where we're at, but I do have a lot of thick layers of wet paint that I need to let dry before I touch it anymore. I do want to put some more work into the background, I'm thinking, and definitely add some more flowers and color into our estuary and some more detail onto our dough, but primarily I'm really, really happy with what we came up with this evening. I'd like to leave you all with a question. Do you ever struggle to get started or stay focused on tasks, even ones that you love? What tricks do you use? Art can be as challenging as it can be rewarding, so whether it's music, movies, body doubling, or silence, I want to encourage you to find ways to meet those needs and get painting. If you enjoyed the content this week, click the subscribe button so you can receive more content like this every week.